Apple Card is the credit card created by Apple. You earn 3% daily cash back up front when you use it to buy a new iPhone 15, AirPods, or any products at Apple. And you can automatically grow your daily cash at 4.15% annual percentage yield when you open a high-yield savings account. Apply for Apple Card in the Wallet app on iPhone. Apple Card subject to credit approval. Savings is available to Apple Card owners subject to eligibility. Savings accounts by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, member FDIC. Terms apply.
The Two-Footed Podcast is brought to you by EPLindex.com and our presenting sponsor, Liberty Shield. Liberty Shield is a VPN provider. A virtual privacy network allows you to go online, change your location, access things you're geo-blocked from, while keeping your data safe. So, as an example, if you are a UK expat and want access to BBC iPlayer to watch Match of the Day or ITV Hub or all four, but you get that message that says this content is not available in your location, a Liberty Shield VPN gets you around that block, allows you to watch whatever you want on those services while also keeping your data safe. And it goes further than that. It allows you to open up Netflix's entire library by just changing your IP address. Liberty Shield is the #1 rated VPN provider on Trustpilot with 5-star ratings across the board. So go to libertyshield.com right now, use the code EPL25 and get either the hardware package or the software package. The hardware package is a router that you plug into your existing router, and any item you want to change the IP address on, be it your phone or your television, you connect that to the new Liberty Shield router. All other items can remain connected to your existing router. There's also a software package, which is instantly downloadable to your device and you can get using straight away. Again, libertyshield.com, EPL25 for 25% off at checkout. We're also brought to you by Home of Hopcroft, a giftware and homeware company located in Scotland but shipping worldwide. Check out homeofhopcroft.co.uk and do check out the EPL Index and Anfield Index shops, which you'll find on Etsy. Use the codes EPL10 or RED10 for 10% off at checkout. And lastly, do remember to check out A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. That podcast is on this feed before every Premier League match week. And then the EPL Roundtable, hosted by Kevin DeVries, on its own EPL Roundtable feed. So just search EPL Roundtable in your podcast device. And that's out after every match week. Now, on with the show. What's good, boys and girls? Two-Footed Podcast. Today is Friday, November 24th, and I can actually see some blue in the sky today, which is nice. Now, most of it is grey, but it's not raining, which is nice. And it's not actually all that cold, which is also nice. So there's your weather update, because I know that's what you actually tune in for. So you can stop now and go about your day. But if you do want to stay, we're going to go through some news, the gossip quickly, then we'll go to a very quick break, bring in Guy, and I will wrongly predict all 10 Premier League games this weekend. So that's today's show. Okay, Mikel Arteta says he will continue to speak freely about referees. Interesting. Well, Mikel, you had best get used to paying fines, and then you will quickly find that those referees hold grudges and will treat your team differently. For Arsenal to cry about refereeing decisions going against them is frankly hilarious, because last season far more went in their favour than against them. I know the Brentford game. This season, yeah, they were unlucky in that game at Newcastle. The goal should not have counted. Joelinton did clamber all over Gabriel. But let's not forget, the reason they beat Manchester United was bad officiating. So these things do even out. And when you're a big club like Arsenal, you do tend to get more than those that go against you. I like to moan about referees as a Liverpool fan, but I do accept that more often than not, decisions will go in our favour. It's just the nature of the beast. Former Manchester City and Liverpool striker Mario Balotelli is in good health after being involved in a car accident. Say his club Adana Demirspor. His vehicle crashed into a wall in his hometown of Brescia on Wednesday, but he was able to walk away from the car, which was severely injured. He is currently out of action after undergoing knee surgery. So thankfully he's okay. Shame about the car, but it is what it is. There is a piece here about Rafa Benitez on the BBC website. Benitez is currently in charge of Celta Vigo. It is not going particularly well. And Andy West has written a very good piece there about Rafa Benitez's return, how it was meant to be this positive thing, spark potentially something of a new era for Celta. Instead, they sit third from bottom in La Liga. Now, last season, they finished 13th. They survived by 3 points. 13th place, but only 3 points ahead of Valladolid. This year, in the bottom three, only one win from their 13 games so far. And when you factor in Benitez's run at Everton, it hasn't been a good couple of years for Rafa. Like, one win in 13 in the league there, that's unacceptable at any top flight club to win one of your first 13 games. He's won 2 of 14 in all competitions. He's now on 9 wins from his last 36 games in charge. But if we look at that Everton 21-22 season, we all remember how well it started and how badly things turned for Benitez. He was sacked on the 16th of January, which was after game 22. They won 4 of their first 6 league games and then won only 1 more under Benitez in the remaining 16. So in his last 29 league games, he's won 2. Won 2, drawn 7, and lost the rest. That really isn't good. That really, really isn't good. 1-2, drawn 7, and lost 20 of his last 29 league matches in charge. Really, really not good. Really not good. Yeah, Rafa probably not going to last a whole lot longer there. And it's a little bit sad to see his career go this way because, you know, he had a bit of a mixed bag up until he got to Tenerife. Then he did very well there, went to Valencia, did an incredible job at Valencia, winning 2 league titles and UEFA Cup, joins Liverpool, wins the European Cup, wins an FA Cup, comes close, didn't come all that close to winning the league, but there was a point in the 08-09 season where it did look like Liverpool would win the league. Went to Inter, failed at Inter, went to Chelsea, won the Europa League. So, to be fair, that is success. 2 years at Napoli, managed to win a cup. Had 6 months at Real Madrid. Was sacked more for political reasons and because the style of football wasn't great than anything to do with what took place on the pitch, because he won 68% of his matches. Only 3 defeats in 25 games against 17 victories. At Newcastle, we all know he did a good job at Newcastle. Brought them up, kept them up on a shoestring budget. Disastrous time in China. Disastrous time with Everton. Injuries were a huge factor at Everton, it should be said, but still. and a disaster so far with Celta Vigo. In his last 74 matches, he's won only 19 against 36 defeats. That's really not good. It might be time for Rafa to call it a day. I do wonder if Rafa might be better suited at this point in his career to more of a director of football type of role, where he oversees the club rather than the team itself. I do think in that type of role, Benitez could be very, very effective. But as a manager, he's no longer suited to the top leagues. He just isn't. There's a quiz on the BBC website regarding the European Golden Shoe, as it's called now, as opposed to the Golden Boot, which is what it should be called. Harry Kane is obviously off to an incredible start, and he is on path to potentially win the Golden Boot this year. What else do we have here? Brilliant Kerr shows class despite being only 80% fit. Sam Kerr starring in Chelsea's 4-1 win over Paris FC. England captain Millie Bright has withdrawn from the Women's Europa Nations League squad with an injury, so that's a blow for England. Obviously, very important player, very good player. There's an interesting story here. Now, it's more for the old-timers, but definitely one I think is worth everybody's time giving a read to. It's about Frank So, England's pioneer who died with a tale untold, written by Lewis Peers. And it's a very, very interesting read. I would genuinely suggest that everybody take the time to give that a read. It's a bit of a long one, but if you've got 10 minutes to spare, I do think it's worth giving that one a read. A little bit of a history lesson for everybody. Wasim Haq has resigned from the FA Council over post that said Hitler would be proud of Netanyahu. I mean, I would have promoted him personally, but, you know, you shouldn't really be bringing that man's name into, that scumbag's name into anything, regardless of the modern day scumbags doing scumbag things. Luton have been fined over homophobic chanting at Brighton. They've been fined £120,000 for their fans' behaviours. So that's now twice that Luton's fans have gotten themselves in trouble. I wonder, will they have another very sad, pathetic statement to make after the sad, pathetic statement they made about the tragedy chanting, the disgusting poverty chants during the Liverpool game, which is, it's just always a wonderful thing to hear people sing "Feed the Scousers" when they're from an area with higher unemployment and higher childhood poverty than Liverpool. I always just find that very strange, that people have so little awareness of what's going on around them that they buy into those stereotypes. People of Luton, feed your own before you worry about feeding anybody else. And with Christmas coming up, if you've got a few quid to spare, and this doesn't just apply to people of Luton, this applies to people everywhere. If you've got a few quid to spare, maybe consider, 20 quid's worth of food and bringing it to a food bank. Or a lot of places are doing the toy drives again this year. And there's going to be a lot of kids that wake up on Christmas morning to little or nothing because their families just, frankly, simply can't afford. So these toy drives are a wonderful way that those families who really are struggling can get help and can put something under the tree for their kids. and let their kids have that magical experience of coming down Christmas morning and thinking that Santa has been to their house. So if you do have some spare money this year, and I know a lot of people don't, I know everybody's struggling. Believe me, I know everybody is struggling right now. But if you have a little bit of extra money that you can spare, do please consider helping one of the toy drives or donating to a food bank, because everybody needs a bit of help. And you don't know when the time might come that you might be the one that needs a little bit of help. So if you can pay it forward, potentially it'll come back to you down the road. On to this day's gossip. Real Madrid are ready to splash the cash next summer after setting their sights on Kylian Mbappe and Erling Haaland. Imagine if they signed both of them. Imagine having both of them and Vinicius Jr. That's your front three. Mbappe right, Haaland through the middle, Vinicius on the left. Then, or you can switch Vinicius and Haaland if you want. But then, in midfield, you've got Bellingham, you've got Valverde, you've got Tchouaméni, you've got Camavinga. That is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. You've still got Rodrigo. You have young Arda Güler. That is just... Everybody else might as well give up. If they could pull that off, everybody else might as well give up. Their defence would still need some work, but I mean, they're going to score 6 goals every game, so they'll get away with it. Jim Ratcliffe admires former Liverpool sporting director Michael Edwards and is keen on him being part of Manchester United's revamped football operations. Everybody admires Michael Edwards. If Michael Edwards was going to go and work for Jim Ratcliffe, I think he'd already be working for Jim Ratcliffe. Chelsea left-back Ian Maatsen is open to joining Manchester City after the travel winners were linked to an interest in the Netherlands under-21 international. It would be a terrible move for his career, in my opinion. Arsenal will reject any approach for Takahiro Tomiyasu, with German champions Bayern Munich rumoured to be interested. Arsenal have agreed to meet the buyout clause of on-loan goalkeeper David Raya, with the Spain international set to become a permanent signing in January for 27 million. It's the spoofer with the catchphrase. I'm not sure how much faith I'd really put into that. Raya's loan is for next summer. Understand Arsenal have decided to seal David Raya in 2024. It's all guaranteed as buy option clause will be triggered for 27 million. He's talking about next summer. He's not talking about January, because he says it in the next line. Raya already signed potential long-term contract as Arsenal player for June 2024. That's a lie. He hasn't signed anything because legally he can't. He'll sign it when the deal is done. Brentford accepted this structure due to FFP. Romano isn't actually telling you anything that wasn't known in the summer there. He's just adding in the thing about the contract to make it seem like he has a clue, when in truth he's just made it up. Granada are hoping to tie 22-year-old Spanish winger Brian Zaragoza to a new contract with a 20 million release clause amid interest from Brentford and RB Leipzig. Manchester United, Arsenal and several Saudi clubs are interested in Pedro Neto, but Wolves will demand a fee of at least 60 million. He won't go to Saudi, I don't think. I don't think he will. Manchester United are looking to reinforce at centre-back, with Jean-Claire Todibo and Goncalo Inacio seen as ideal replacements for Rafa Varane. Well, Inacio is not an ideal replacement because he's a left-sided, left-footed centre-back, and Varane plays right side. But Todibo would be a good sign. I don't expect they'll sign either of them. I think the Todibo link is purely down to Jim Ratcliffe. Casemiro could be on his way out of Manchester United in January. No chance they'll sell in January. Wolves face a fight to hold on to Ray and Nouri after Chelsea added them to their shortlist. Now, this is once again spoofing because it's Graham Bailey. Chelsea have like 4 left backs, so I don't imagine they'll look to sign another one. Chelsea are keeping tabs on Estevão Willian of Palmeiras. That kid is so gifted. His release clause is believed to be £52 million, which is ludicrous considering he's 16. Brazil Football Federation still expects former Chelsea and Everton boss Carlo Ancelotti to take over at the end of this season. Real Betis winger Hassan Diao has emerged as a target for Brentford, and the Premier League side could move for him in January. Liverpool, Chelsea, and Man City also rumoured to be interested in him. Manchester United defender Aaron Wan-Bissaka is considering an offer to play for the Democratic Republic of Congo at next year's African Cup of Nations. He should. He absolutely should do that. Wolves and Newcastle will compete for Senegalese defender Aruna Sangante, who's 21, after he caught the eye playing for Le Havre. Wolves could do with centre-back help, and Newcastle should be looking for a Fabian Schär successor, so maybe that's him. Wolves have also been scouting 20-year-old Nigerian Rafio Durasinmi, but Eintracht Frankfurt are also interested in the 10 million rated Victoria Pleasant striker. There's so many good young Nigerian strikers right now. It's actually scary how good that national team could be in a couple of years. Fluminense head coach says the exit of 22-year-old Brazil midfielder Andre is imminent, with reports claiming Fulham are leading the race. I told everybody weeks ago Fulham were leading the race and nobody wanted to listen. Barcelona are keen on signing Tottenham's Argentina midfielder Giovanni Lo Celso as they look to find cover for Gavi. I think Thiago Alcantara would make more sense personally, but it's up to them. Right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be back with Guy, and then we will run through this weekend's games. So I'll see you after this.
Hey, this is Chuck the Goat from Goat USA. I wanted to break into your podcast and tell you about the new Goat USA store, coming to Garden State Plaza on November 1st. If you love high-quality lifestyle apparel, then get in on the hottest athletic lifestyle brand. Come buy an iconic t-shirt and heavenly soft-hooded sweatshirt and start feeling like the greatest of all time. So come on out to Garden State Plaza in November and get your Goat USA swag. Goat USA, apparel for kids and adults. Chuck out.
Right, welcome back. So I'm joined, as always, of a Friday. It's of a Friday, by the way, not on a Friday. Of a Friday, by Mr. Guy Drinkle. How are you, sir?
Bloody freezing, Dave. It's windy. Walked the dog. Somehow ended up on a cliff next to the sea, and that was a mistake.
Well, from my knowledge of Iceland, all of it is a cliff and all of it is windy, so that's not a surprise to me. We do have 10 games this weekend in the Premier League, Guy, and I think there's three marquee fixtures, really. Strangely, only one of them is in a marquee TV slot. It's the first one, and then we can discuss the other two and why they're not. Now, one of them, I believe, is televised, but you would have to question the logic behind some of the televised games this weekend. I'm not sure there's going to be a particularly big audience for Monday night's televised affair, whereas the early kickoff on the Sunday and one of the 3 p.m.s on Saturday, I would have thought would have been far more appealing to people.
Well, and the fact that probably the marquee game of the entire league is on at 12:30 for some bloody stupid reason as well, which doesn't help. I know we don't want to spend time, but 12:30, this is the marquee game of the Premier League. Yeah. And they've made up an excuse about policing, considering these teams have played each other loads of times. And I know there's been fan incidents and stuff, but we've played each other in the Champions League at 8 o'clock. There's a Monday night game where Chelsea and City played each other a couple of weeks ago now. Why wasn't there a policing issue there? But to move it to 12:30, is there that big a difference between 12:30 and 5:30? Or a 2 o'clock on a Sunday? Is there really that big an issue?
No, Sky wanted this game at 5:30 originally, and the Greater Manchester Police are the ones that kicked up a fuss. As you said, Liverpool have played Manchester City in Champions League games on midweek nights, and there's been little to no issues. I know there was the incident with the bus and the few little bits like that, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, there's ways and means to police around that by not allowing people into certain areas, by blocking off certain streets or whatever. It just seems like a poor excuse. I mean, look, last Sunday, sorry, not last Sunday, the Sunday before, the last Premier League Sunday, didn't Manchester City and Chelsea play in London at 4:30 in the afternoon? Could we not have had that? Like, I just don't get this excuse. This just seems like nonsense to me. And like, I feel like the TV crowds need to be pushing back as well, because surely they're not getting as big a crowd for this game, because so many people work on a Saturday now than they would maybe on a Sunday at 4:30. Even a Monday night game at 8 p.m. would get more eyeballs. I think
the American crowd as well.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, for the Americans, if you're on the East Coast, so New York, Boston, wherever, this game is at 7:30. If you live on the West Coast, this is a 4:30 a.m. kickoff. If you live in LA, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, this is a 4:30 a.m. kickoff. That's horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. So it's a big no from me to 12:30 Saturday kickoffs to begin with. But this game should be interesting. I mean, we all know the rivalry. These two teams have kind of dominated the Premier League landscape for the last 5 or 6 years. This weekend, Liverpool have no Thiago, no Andy Robertson, no Stefan Bajcetic, but everybody else is back in training and should be good to go. Manchester City will have no Kevin De Bruyne, likely no Mateo Kovacic, no John Stones, and likely no Matthias Nunes. But Gomez, Aki, Ederson, and Haaland are all back, and Rodri obviously also available for them. So, both fairly close to full strength. No real excuses for either. I think if Liverpool take the game to City, they can have joy, because we saw what Chelsea did when they took the game to City, how ragged City looked. I went for a Liverpool win on Scouted with Carl. I wanted to pick a draw, but he picked a draw, and I didn't want to just pick the same thing as him. So I'm going to stick with the win. I'm going to say 2-1 to Liverpool. I don't really believe in the pick, to be totally honest, and I have this feeling that Liverpool will lose, but I'm just going to pick a 2-1 Liverpool win and hope for the best.
De Bruyne will turn up like N'Golo Kante, score a deflected goal, and we'll not see him till April.
Yeah, that's exactly what'll happen. Like, he'll come on, he'll be seen before the game hobbling around with crutches, with a massive big bandage on his hamstring, and then 15 minutes left in the game, his music will hit. Jim Ross will appear from somewhere and say, "By God, that's Kevin De Bruyne's music." He'll tear the bandage off, throw the crutches to one side, march on, score 2 goals, the second of which will absolutely be deflected in off somebody's head, and then he'll collapse on the ground in a heap, and we won't see him again. That'll just be it. He'll be a Saudi Arabian League player by the next time we see him. It'll just be horrendous if that's just the type of thing that happens when Pep Guardiola has the horse placenta aplenty. But I'm going to go for the Liverpool win, and I'm just going to hope for the best. It'll either make or break the weekend. That's the other crappy thing about these 12:30 kickoffs, and it's always Liverpool in a 12:30 kickoff after an international break. It makes or breaks your weekend. If Liverpool lose, that's weekend spoiled completely. If they win, it's going to be a great weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll go from the marquee matchup to not. What's the opposite of marquee? Crap. Burnley against West Ham, Dave. Again, Burnley just have not taken to this league whatsoever. West Ham, after a really promising start, just kind of fell back into patterns from last year. I mean, where are they sat on the table now? I mean, they're in ninth, so that's probably where they'd expect it to be or want to be, maybe a smidge higher. But West Ham kind of fall into a pattern of purple patches and whatnot, but without Antonio there, maybe a bit more free-flowing football in the front line could make it a more interesting game, but I don't think it'll be one to watch at 3 o'clock anyway.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, Jared Bowen is a doubt, so if he's out as well as Antonio, that's going to be problematic. Mohamed Kudus might have to fill in up front.
Danny Ings.
Danny Ings, actually, to be fair, yeah, Danny Ings would just come into the team. And he might quite fancy this one, given he's a former Burnley player. Burnley have no Jack Cork and no Lyle Foster, but Muric should be okay. Al Dakhil is a doubt, but should be fine. This is not going to be... I mean, look, Burnley, at least they try and play decent football. The issue is that it leaves them too wide open and they get themselves in trouble. West Ham are just a flat-out better team with better players. So I'm going to pick the West Ham win, but I don't think it's going to be a great game. I'll go... Same score. I'll go 2-1 to West Ham.
Yeah, probably thinking something similar there. Probably not another pretty game coming up. We have Luton against Crystal Palace, Dave. Luton, well, bar fan chanting, but that's probably for a different time. They do make games difficult, and Palace, I suppose we've got to look at it differently. There's two different Palaces. The team that we saw was kind of just there in the Premier League before Eze came back. Eze came back in his first game. I think he got booked for diving, but he did try and skin about 18 people to win a penalty. And I think Elise is nearly back.
Elise is back as well. He came back in the last game off the bench, so he should be good.
Two completely different teams, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. They look they're a really fun team to watch when Eze and Elise are playing. Doucouré, who had a bit of a knock that he was carrying before the international break, he'll hopefully be okay to come back into the starting 11. I'd really like to see Matthias Franke get some real minutes this weekend. I think he's the type of talent that has a real opportunity to be a special player. Luton are not fun to play against, but Luton's style does sort of fit into what Palace are happy to defend against. Like, Palace have Anderson, who's really dominant in the air, and they've got Guehi, who's an excellent partner for him in terms of sweeping in behind him and being a cover defender. Palace are missing Raksaki, Tompkins, and Dean Henderson. Luton have loads of issues. No Anderson, no Potts, no Sambi Lakonga, no Reece Burke. Doubts over Cauley Woodrow, Alfie Doughty, Chidozie Egbone, Issa Kabore, and Amari Bell. Now, the likelihood is that Doughty, Ogbone, and Kabore will be fine, but you just don't know. They can't really afford to be missing anyone from their starting 11 because even it's not quite good enough for the Premier League. The squad depth behind it certainly isn't good enough. This is one of the games that Roy Hodgson, when he was calculating his 43 to 45 points before the start of the season, will have marked down as a win. I think Palace will go there and win a game that'll be quite ugly to watch, but will be lit up with little moments of magic from Eze and Elise. I'm going to go 1-0 to Crystal Palace.
Yeah, not the most pretty game. And I'm guessing this is the marquee game you were on about, unless you really fancy Sheffield United against Bournemouth, Dave. And that is Newcastle against Chelsea at 3 o'clock for some stupid reason. If Newcastle had everyone fit, I think it'd be less interesting because I think Newcastle would probably just win. But their injuries do make it more interesting. And Chelsea's improving performances against the good teams, at least.
Yeah.
But Newcastle don't play like Man City or Arsenal.
No, they don't. Newcastle are more considered. Newcastle play more like Chelsea. Chelsea have their own injury problems. Wes Fofana, Ben Chilwell, Trevoh Chalobah, and Carney Chukwuemeka all out. Carney, unfortunately, suffered a setback, so he's going to be out a little while longer. They have doubts over Levi Colwill and Malo Gusto. And then Christopher Nkunku and Romeo Lavia are still working their way back, but I doubt they're going to be ready to play. But Newcastle are just decimated at the moment. Now, they have a bunch of players who were doubts, missed the game before the break, but now should be okay. But you still got Target, Manquillo, Harvey Barnes, Sven Botman, Elliot Anderson, Callum Wilson, Dan Byrne, Jacob Murphy, all injured. Sandro Tonali suspended. Lewis Hall can't play because he's still owned by Chelsea. But Guimaraes is back after suspension. Almiron, according to Eddie Howe, is good to play. And Fabian Schär is good to play. Sean Longstaff and Alexander Isak are still doubts, but they're hopeful they'll at least be part of the matchday squad, maybe come off the bench. So a lot of issues for the Toon. Injured in all three lines, key players missing. Isak and Botman are two of their three best players, along with obviously Guimaraes. Tonali was a huge money signing. Callum Wilson's injury at the same time as Isak being out is obviously an enormous blow. And he's going to be out for the next month or so. So they're going to be light up front. I'm guessing that they'll play Gordon through the middle, Joelinton from the left, Almiron from the right. That's what I'm guessing the front three will be. And then Guimaraes, Murphy, and maybe Lewis Miley plays again, or maybe Longstaff is good to go in midfield. The Longstaff's form this season has been one of the real bright spots for Newcastle. He has been excellent. Mm-hmm. So I do think if there's any kind of doubt over him, they won't risk him because he's become a really important player.
Do they have PSG midweek?
I believe,
Milan?
I believe they have.
Well, they have to win it either way, I think, don't they?
They do have to win either way. They're now at a stage where they kind of have to win both of their remaining games. Their next game is away to PSG and then home to Milan for the final game 2 weeks later. They have to win both to have a chance of getting through. And even if they did win both, it might... Well, actually, no, to be fair, if they did win both, it would be enough. Because then PSG could only get to 9 points. Milan could only get to 8.
Obviously, they'll want to get through, but maybe the best thing if they go out with Europe altogether, because you've got the group of death. It's an easy excuse. And if you have a midweekless run till the end of the season, they'll probably get top 4 again. They'll be favourites for it.
Top 4 is going to be tough, though. Like, if you look at the Premier League table, as things stand, they're 6 points behind Spurs. Now, Spurs have some injury issues at the moment of their own, but you've got Liverpool, City and Arsenal, you would say...
I'd say they're set, yeah.
Pretty much set in stone to be top 4. So then you're down to Tottenham, who have hugely improved, and they don't have Europe. Aston Villa, who are in the Conference League, so they can rest and rotate for that. Toon, and you just know that the zombies at Manchester United will kind of continue to drag their way along and still be somewhere in that mix.
Scott McTominay are going to end up with 20 goals and 10
loading them up on his back and scoring 15 goals the rest of the season. Before the fans try and rubbish him when he gets played as a defensive midfielder in one game and doesn't do well. I think top 4 is going to be really tough for them this year for Newcastle. But look, getting top 4 last year, getting that Champions League experience, that's invaluable stuff. If they even get Europa League for next season and go into the Europa League and maybe try and win the competition, that, for me, would be a huge thing for Newcastle. If they could go and have, like, one of those seasons where you're a really, really good cup team, and maybe you finish 5th or 6th or 7th in the league, but you win a cup and you have another good cup run in one of the other two, maybe both of the other two. That, to me, would be a real sign of progress for Newcastle. Because the bottom line of it is, Newcastle fans are desperate for trophies. They're not desperate for Champions League football. Like, if you told a Newcastle fan you're going to be in the Europa Conference League next season, I think they'd be delighted because they'd have a really good chance of going and winning it. If you said to a Toon fan, would you rather win the Europa League, Europa Conference League next season and the League Cup the year after, or finish 4th in both seasons? I think they take the 2 trophies.
You have to get that monkey off the back, don't you?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's been so long since they won anything that I really do think if you gave them the option of trophies, even secondary trophies, or, top 4 and no real chance of winning the European Cup. Like, they're miles away from winning the European Cup.
And this is quite a weak year as well, to be fair. It's not going to get weaker than this.
No, that's the thing. This is as weak as the Champions League has ever been. Last season and this season, it's diabolically poor. You've got City, and then you're really struggling to think of a second team that could win it. And I said it early in the season, PSG for me, squad-wise, are 1 player away. But I did caveat that with, this manager's not that guy. He's not the one to win this Champions League with them. He was fine doing it with Barcelona when he had Messi, Suarez and Neymar, and Iniesta and Busquets, because any competent manager could have done well with that team.
To be fair.
Erik ten Hag would have won the Champions League with that team. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would have won the Champions League with that team. Actually, maybe not. But, it would be hard not to do well with that group of players. And if anything, he underachieved, because Real Madrid went and won 3 straight after that with a lesser group of players than what
they only did not win the treble and not win much else, if I remember correctly.
They won the treble.
We've gone on a Barcelona tangent, haven't we?
I think that is all. I mean, we have gone on a Barcelona tangent, but it's all Newcastle's fault, really.
Yeah.
But Luis Enrique, actually, just on him, he's the type of fella I could see managing Newcastle next, because he's a big name and he's a European Cup winner. Barcelona. No, he won 2 league titles.
Right, okay.
He actually, to be fair to him, he won the treble, then he won the domestic double, and then he won the cup in his 3rd year. I don't care. It means nothing considering the talent he had at his disposal. That doesn't mean nothing, but it's not a sign that he's a great manager. It's just a sign he's a great team. Where was I? Newcastle. I think they'd prefer the trophies, personally. So I think we'll see them have a real bash at the FA Cup this year. But yeah, you might be right in terms of the league, just to stabilise themselves a little bit as well, because they've been very hit and miss this season. Already lost 4 times this year. They only lost 5 in the entire Premier League campaign last season. So just to stabilise themselves, they might be better off, though they'll still want to get at least 1 knockout game in at St James's, just because the atmosphere.
Even if they fall in the Europa League, they'd be.
Oh yeah,
Liverpool be favourites, you'd say.
Yeah.
Depending who else falls in, but Newcastle will probably be top 3 or 4 favourites, right? You'd think.
Well, let's have a look at who's potentially dropping in as things stand. Group stage. Okay, so Group A, Bayern are through. Could be Copenhagen, Galatasaray, or United. None of them are going to win the Europa League. Group B, Arsenal will get through. PSV, Lens, or Sevilla. Sevilla, because they're just weird, would probably be the immediate favourites to win it, despite the fact that they're awful, but they don't look likely to get into the Europa League this season. Braga or Union Berlin aren't going to do anything. Red Bull Salzburg and Benfica aren't going to do anything. Lazio or Atletico Madrid dropping in at a Group E. Atleti would be very tough. Whoever drops in from Group F, be it Dortmund, PSG, Milan, or Newcastle, will immediately become one of the favourites, because Red Star Belgrade aren't going to do anything. Neither would Young Boys. You wouldn't imagine Shakhtar would do much in it either. And if we look at the Europa League, it's
just really Leverkusen, Atalanta, and the English clubs, to my money.
Yeah,
maybe
West
Marseille.
Ham, Freiburg. I mean, they'll be beaten fairly easily. Marseille, I don't think they're good enough to win it. Brighton will be tough, obviously. Betis aren't good enough to win it. Rangers aren't good enough to win it. Atalanta, like you said. Sporting will be a tough out. Rennes, I don't think so. Villarreal, I don't think so. Slavia Prague, I don't think so. Roma, just because it's Mourinho, will be tough, but I still don't think that they got the quality. Leverkusen, they've been great this season, but I do think Liverpool, Newcastle. Yeah, I think if they drop in, they'll be one of the 4 or at worst 5 favourites to win the competition. So yeah, I mean that might be more beneficial to them to drop in and have a real crack at winning this, as opposed to just getting knocked out in the next round of the Champions League. As for this game, Newcastle are at home, so I'm going to pick them to win. I'll go 2-1 to Newcastle.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that as well. Next up, I think this game could be fun as well. Forest against Brighton, Dave. Obviously, Forest, good team at home. Brighton, is it still not won the league since September? I think that's right.
Yeah, I haven't won the league since September, which is not
great.
Not ideal. No, they're still 6th in the league. So, it's not...
Imagine what they could have been doing.
That's the thing. That's really weird. Hang on a sec. I'm looking at Brighton's form, and for some reason, on Google, when I'm looking at the league table, their form tells me they've won 2 of their last 5. That must include all competitions and must be including their Europa League games.
Welcome to the Premier League, Ajax.
Ajax and 2 games against Ajax. Because in the Premier League, since beating Bournemouth 3-1, they've lost 6-1 to Villa, drawn 2-2 at Liverpool, lost 2-1 to City, drawn 1-1 with Fulham, drawn 1-1 with Everton, and drawn 1-1 with Sheffield United. So that's not good. This weekend, no Welbeck, no Solly March, no Enciso, no Dahoud. Matoma is a doubt. Lamptey is out. Estupinan is out. Milner is out. Dunk is out. And Evan Ferguson is a doubt. So, none of that is great. They're going to be very much bare bones. Forest, though, did lose Teo Awoniyi, which is a huge blow. Callum Hudson-Odoi is still out. Murillo, they're hopeful he'll be back, but it's looking unlikely for this game. Anthony Elanga should be fine. Danilo has an ankle issue, but he might be okay as well. And Felipe is looking unlikely. So 2 teams missing a lot of key players, but it's at Forest. I'm going to back Forest to win. I think it'll be an entertaining game. And it could be a game where there's a decent amount of goals. I'll go 3-2 to Forest.
Yeah, I could see that. Neither team great defensively, and goals are plenty. As long as Forest click in that department. Next up, the big 3:00 kickoff, as I mentioned earlier, Dave, we have Sheffield United against Bournemouth. Relegation 6-pointer, but Bournemouth, last time out, did beat Newcastle. I know it's an injury hit Newcastle, but it's a massive result nevertheless. And Sheffield United, to be fair, big draw, was it Brighton, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, against Brighton.
Yeah, so, I think Bournemouth are a team on the up, and Sheffield United just kind of grinding out points. Maybe not enough points, but they are grinding points.
Yeah, for sure. And as long as they continue... Oh, do you know, I'm an idiot. I was looking at last... Brighton are actually 8th. I was looking at their form from the last 6 games of last season. Ignore me. I'm an idiot. Anyway, on to, this one. Sheffield United have 4 points from their last 2 games. That's massive for them. Bournemouth have 6 points from the last 3 games. Massive for them. This is the biggest game of the weekend in many ways, because it's all well and good at the top of the table where, they're the big teams, the big names. It's all exciting. They're fighting to win something. Winning something is one thing. These 2 teams are fighting just to stay in the division. And you don't win or lose the title this early in the season. You can put yourself in a hole in terms of relegation this early in the season. And if Bournemouth were to win, they would be 7 points clear of Sheffield United in 18th. And that kind of gap, that is massively beneficial to have this early in the season in a battle against relegation. So I do think this game is huge. Now, both teams are pretty ravaged with injuries at the moment. No Tyler Adams, no Max Aarons, no Alex Scott. They're all going to be out until the new year. That's massive. Philip Billing is back. That's a big plus for Bournemouth. Ryan Fredericks is out, Marcondo is out, and Randolph is out. None of them will be playing anyway. Sheffield United, though. Basham out, Lowe out. Brewster out, Norrington Davies out, Egan out, Davies out, and Jebison out. The good news, at least for them, is that Vinny Sousa, Jayden Bogle, Anil Ahmedhodzic, and Ollie McBurney are all back. So they should all be fine to play. But this is going to be a really tough game. I don't think it's going to be all that pretty. I'm going to back Bournemouth to win, though. I just think there's a little bit more individual talent in that team. They're a little bit better managed. I think they've got a more defined way of playing under this manager. I'm going to back them to win 1-0.
Yeah. Bournemouth's almost the team of the Friday Day podcast. It's fine. 5:30 kickoff. I feel like this should be at 3:00 and the Newcastle one should be this one. But we have Brentford against Arsenal, Dave. I mean, it's interesting, but I don't think Brentford are quite the same test for these big sides without Tony there. No, there will still spring surprises. We've seen them give United tough game, etc., and beat Chelsea.
Yeah, beat Chelsea at Chelsea.
But that's still, it's Chelsea. So I can see it from that point of view being interesting, but if Arsenal have any title aspirations, I know City, Brentford are kind of City's bogey team and Liverpool have struggled against them, but I feel like this is a game Arsenal have to win if they are to topple City.
Yeah, this is one of the ones they have to go and win, I think, as well. Now, look, at least Arsenal will go into this game potentially, if City lose to Liverpool, because everybody's looking at City. Like, we've talked about this before. As Liverpool fans, you're looking at City. How close are we to City? Because that tells you how close you are to winning the league. Even if Liverpool win this weekend, Arsenal will still be looking at City. So if City lose, at least it gives Arsenal a little bit of breathing room. That a draw wouldn't be a bad result here. The Gunners will have no Thomas Partey, no Fabio Vieira, he's suspended, no Emile Smith-Rowe. David Raya is not allowed play, which means Aaron Ramsdale has to come back in.
Oh, narratives are plenty.
Do you know? Like, that's an interesting one.
1 out of 10 or 10 out of 10?
If that's the thing. He's either going to come back in and have an absolute worldie, or he's going to come in and be a catastrophe. There'll be no in-between with him. Odegaard's a doubt. Ben White is a doubt. Cedric Soares is back, and obviously Jurrien Timber probably done for the season or most of it. But Brentford have a lot of problems of their own. No Rico Henry, no Aaron Hickey, no Ivan Toney, no Kevin Shade. None of them will be back this side of Christmas. Nathan Collins is out. Damsgaard is out. Lewis Potter is a major doubt. And Josh Da Silva is out. So they're going to be bare bones. But Mbomo and Vissa, with their speed, can trouble this Arsenal backline.
Mm-hmm.
The physicality of the Brentford midfield can trouble Arsenal. And they'll still be really good on set pieces. And Arsenal do struggle a little bit defensively on set pieces. So I think this is going to be a good game. I think I can see logic in having it as a televised game because they're two good teams. Though, like you said, Brentford not quite as good without Tony and certainly not the threat without Tony. But I can see them giving Arsenal a tough time here. And both sides want to play decent football, which is always good. For me, I'd have put this one on either in the 12:30 slot or in one of the Sunday slots, because there's a Sunday game that doesn't need to be on TV. There's also that Monday night game that this is more appealing than. But obviously with Arsenal being in Europe, they can't play on a Monday night. But I will go for the Arsenal win. Another 2-1. I'll go 2-1 to Arsenal. I think Brentford will cause them problems, but I still think Arsenal, just there's enough quality, Saka, Martinelli, Jesus, there's enough quality there to break down that defence, which can be a little bit slow-footed at times. And obviously with the injuries they've got, it's less than ideal for them at the moment. So we'll go 2-1 to Arsenal.
Yep, certainly an interesting one. Moving on to Sunday, then we have the Spurs against Villa kicking off Super Sunday. A very interesting game. It's a shame Spurs have the injuries, but Villa again different, being the away team, not as strong. But I feel like Villa do turn up in these games, and with Spurs' issues at the back without the suspended lads. And was Edozie a red card or was it 2 yellows?
It was 2 yellows, was it?
So
not?
He'll be back.
I believe so. Let me see. Yeah, he's back, yeah.
So that's at least one thing to have there. But the centre-back issues, I mean, Ollie Watkins and Diaby should be licking their lips at that.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Like you said, Villa not as good away from home, but still not bad away from home, though they did get thumped at Anfield and at St. James's. And Spurs do carry a very big threat going forward, though without Maddison not quite as potent. No Buendia, no Mings, no Ramsey. Doubts over Diego Carlos, Matty Cash, and John McGinn. So, if Carlos and Cash missed out, that's 2 of their starting defenders. You could be looking at a Clement Langley. Say it could be Chambers right back, Langley and.
But you could put Konza back.
Oh, Konza would go right back. Sorry, Konza would go right back, and then Langley and Torres, which would automatically mean you'd want them to lose, given it would be 2 left-footed centre backs.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
For Spurs, no Perisic, no Van de Ven, no Maddison, no Sessegnon, no Manor Solomon, all out till January. No Richarlison, Romero suspended. Yves Bissouma is suspended, which is another huge blow.
Ooh.
Papit
And they've got options in midfield.
Yeah, I mean, Matar Sarr should be okay to play, or they're hopeful he'll be okay to play. And Bentancur looked brilliant for Uruguay during the international break. So that's a really good pairing in itself. They've also got Højbjerg. They've got Skip. Lascelles. They're fine in central midfield.
Yeah.
Lascelles probably plays as the 10. You've got Brennan Johnson one side, Kulusevski the son to the middle. The midfield attack will be fine. The fullbacks, Porro and Edozie, both been excellent this year. The issues at centre back. No Romero, no Van de Ven. Means Eric Dyer, who's an absolute catastrophe, and probably Ben Davies, who's not much better.
Would you throw in? Is it Ashley Phillips who's the ball from Blackburn?
I would, just because he's big and he's good in the air. I'd be looking at him.
Which one would you pick next to him, though?
Ben Davies.
Yeah.
I'd much rather have Ben Davies in there. I know Ben Davies' limitations, but he won't actively cost me a game. Eric Dyer will actively cost me games. So I would go. I'd be tempted to even just stick Højbjerg at centre back and just hope for the best rather than play Eric Dyer, because Dyer's just so poor. When he's not in form and isn't full of confidence, he is an absolute liability.
Or in a back three protected by 7 people in a Conte system.
That's the thing.
Still didn't work.
I'm going to go for a draw here, though. I'm going to go 2-2. I think this is going to be a really good game. Molly agrees. 2-2, says Molly. Yeah.
Good job, Molly. Yeah, that'll be a fun one. This next one, maybe not.
Why is this on television? Why is this game on television? Why have we been forced to watch this?
Funny?
It's not funny at all. There's nothing funny about watching Everton play. But Everton are in good form. They've won 3 of their last 5. United, funnily enough, have won 4 of their last 5. So despite the fact we have laughed at them relentlessly.
Form team of the league?
Yeah, they are, legitimately. They're the most informed team in the league. The only team to win 4 of their last 5. Now, they've lost 5 games this season. They've lost to bad teams, but they've gone away to bad teams and they've snuck wins. Sheffield United, Burnley, Fulham. They've gone there and they've won by the odd goal. Everton have no Dele Alli. Onana's a doubt, which would be a massive blow. No Andre Gomes, no Seamus Coleman. United, no Casemiro, no Lisandro Martinez, no Johnny Evans, no Ericsson, no Malacia, no Sancho, because the manager's feelings are still hurt. No Diallo. Palestri's a major doubt. Shaw's a major doubt. Their own Onana has a doubt, has an injury. He might miss out. I would guess Rasmus Højlund misses out, but Aaron Wan-Bissaka should be fine. So it will be an injury hit United.
God, this match is going to be awful.
If Wan-Bissaka misses out, I'd be curious to see who the second fullback is, because Dalot will have to play one side.
Was Lindelof fit?
Lindelof.
He played left back, didn't he?
He did.
And it was awful.
It was terrible. Amrabat played left back as well. It was terrible.
Lindelof, Maguire, Johnny Evans, and Dalot.
Johnny Evans is out, so it could be either. And he won't seemingly play Varane at the moment, which is why I'm wondering.
He'll have to play Varane.
He'll have to play Varane. He'll have to. Now, the better thing he could do is play Lindelof right back and Dalot left back. That makes a lot more sense. And then Varane and Maguire in the middle and just hope for the best. It may be that the Turkish goalkeeper has to come in and get his first start for them.
Mm.
The midfield, then, no Ericsson is a huge loss with Casemiro.
They'll have to play the £60 million signing.
So, yeah, Mason Mount, and that means McTominay is the 6, or Amrabat might start, which is what should happen.
Amrabat, McTominay, Mount.
Amrabat, McTominay with Bruno as the 10, Garnacho once. Oh, see, there's the thing again.
Well, they play Bruno on the right, don't they? Weird.
Bruno gets stuck on the right, Mount is the 10. Maybe Rashford goes through the middle. Martial, you can't play. You just can't play him. He's awful these days. He doesn't want to be there anymore. This won't be a fun game. This won't be fun. I'm going to say 1-0 to United, and nobody should watch this game of football. This is an insult to people having this on television.
I'll be watching it. It'll be fantastic. I'll be watching this one as well. Fulham against Wolves for some reason on a Monday night. Isn't this hasn't Fulham played Monday night 3 times this season?
Yes.
Weird. Very weird. I don't get I know every team needs to be on TV, but Fulham are quite boring.
They are.
Very weird. But Wolves, can be fun. Obviously, the Spurs game was very entertaining at the end. I suppose if it's just about that initial breakthrough, I think, in this game, because Fulham obviously struggled with goals this season, and Wolves without Neto don't really have that creative spark. But I suppose if Sarabia gets rewarded with a start after his impact from the bench, may add a bit more balance rather than having the 2 strikers up front.
Yeah, I guess so.
With Cunha as a kind of false 9 type thing.
I guess that's the case. Now, no Joe Hodge, no Neto, but he's only a couple of weeks away, which is really promising. Craig Dawson is suspended. Semedo's a small doubt, but should be okay. Santiago Bueno is fine, but he hasn't played yet this season, so he might not play. But with Dawson out, maybe he gets the call. Matt Doherty should be fine, and Lamina should be fine after injuries on international duty. For Fulham, Rodrigo Menez out. João Palhinha suspended, which is a huge blow, but they've got some decent midfielders there. Tosin is a doubt, but Issa Diop is out. Monday night games are always a little bit funky. Fulham played Tottenham on a Monday night, didn't they?
Yeah. Did they play United?
They played Chelsea on a Monday night.
That was it.
Yeah, I think this will be their 3rd Monday night game.
Yeah. United was 12:30.
United was a 12:30 on a Saturday. This match will be really boring unless Matthias Cunha does something mental. And he's capable. He's done it a couple of times this season. But
you're not feeling Raul Jimenez doing something mental?
That's Raul Jimenez against his former team. A little bit of an interesting one, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, he's back.
Maybe a little bit of a revenge mission after feeling like he was forced out the door. No João Palhinha in midfield, though, is massive for Fulham. I know that they do have some decent midfielders to bring in. I quite like Sasa Lukic. I think that Harrison Reed has done really well since going there.
Mm-hmm. It's not the same, though, is it?
It's not the same. That's the thing. It's just not the same as when they have their best group of players. And when João Palhinha is there, he's so important. I mean, he's so good as well. Iwobi's playing in central midfield, so my guess is it'll be him and maybe Lukic as a double pivot, which is a solid midfield. It's a solid midfield, but Wolves have good options in there, and Lamina and João Gomes, and I really like Boubacar Traore. And I think if he played more, I think Wolves would be better off. Tommy Doyle's obviously very, very talented as well.
Bellegarde.
Yeah, I mean, Bellegarde looks a decent player when he can not lunge in on people.
We all love a lunatic.
I'm going to go for a draw. I'll just go 1-1. And I don't think it'll be a particularly exciting game, but it is what it is, and it has to be on television for some reason. So we'll go with 1-1.
And that was the last game, and I just noticed there's no Friday or early kickoff next weekend, which is a pain in the butt.
We have 3 p.m. kickoffs, a 5:30, an 8 p.m. kickoff.
Oh, you can move the early kickoff, can you?
Apparently, Newcastle police can do a job of an evening of a night time, but Manchester can't. And then on the Sunday, we get 4, no less than 4, 2 p.m. kickoffs. And Manchester police apparently fine to deal with a 4:30 kickoff when Tottenham come to town, but not when Liverpool come to town. So there you go. Right, that'll do us for this week, folks. Thank you, as always, for listening. We will be back on Monday. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
Podcast Network.